The most important stablecoin story of the year has no ticker symbol. While everyone argues USDT or USDC, the operator of Spain's payment backbone started piloting tokenized money with a consortium of its own banks. And the biggest name in stablecoins quietly launched an American twin through a regulated bank, not through itself. I'm Rachel from ChainSense. In the next 5 minutes, the pilot's rewiring how money settles, the issuer template the new rulebook's reward, and what any of it changes for the dollars you actually hold. Spoiler, watch the plumbing, not the press releases. The plumbing never exaggerates. Start in Spain. Iberpay is not a startup. It runs the country's interbank payment system, the pipes every Spanish bank already settles through. And it is piloting tokenized digital money with those banks, commercial bank money reissued as tokens on shared rails. Read that carefully. This is not a challenger attacking banks. It is the incumbent rebuilding its own floor, which is how infrastructure actually changes. And the roster is not hypothetical. The smart money pilot has drawn in Santander, BBVA, CaixaBank and Sabadell, testing how tokens are issued, moved, and redeemed, with the money itself backed by funds parked in central bank accounts. One country, one very deliberate direction of travel, and it needed no bull market to justify itself. Now, the skeptic's ruler, because I promise no hype. A pilot is not a product. Pilots die quietly all the time, and press releases outnumber production systems 10 to 1. But incumbents do not pilot for fun. They pilot when standing still starts to look expensive. That is the signal worth filing, not the announcement. Who is making it? Now the template, because one already shipped. This January, USAT went live, Tether's American stablecoin. Except Tether does not issue it. A regulated bank does, Anchorage Digital, with Tether supplying the brand and the technology. Sit with that structure for a second. The biggest offshore issuer on earth looked at America and chose a bank for its U.S. play. Why? Because the American rulebook, the Genius Act, effectively decides who may mint a compliant dollar, and the answer is licensed, supervised balance sheets. So the future shape is not mysterious. Familiar brands on top, regulated issuers underneath. And today's giants? Not a prediction, a constraint map. An issuer can grow a regulated twin, the USAT path. It can stay offshore and serve the rest of the world, which is an enormous market, or it can lose regulated shelves one by one. Europe already demonstrated the mechanics of that this month. The coins compete on liquidity today, the issuers will compete on licenses tomorrow, and that contest has already started. So what does a normal holder do with all this? First, keep the scope clean. This series is about money on chain. Tokenized funds and treasuries, assets on chain, are a different subject, and we covered them in the RWA series. Second, change what you watch. Prices tell you nothing here. Watch license grants. Watch a pilot graduating into production. Watch which banks join which rails. And whether bank tokens learn to talk to public stablecoins or live behind their own walls. Those 4 signals beat any price chart at telling you where money is going. Third, the good news. More boring issuers is exactly what you want. When banks and licensed players crowd in, coins stop competing on reckless yield and start competing on proof. And you already know how to read proof. Fourth, the caution that keeps you honest. A bank-issued token is still a design. Same species logic, same checklist from the depeg episode. Which vault, whose rules, where do the dollars sleep? New issuers change the label on the promise. They do not repeal the questions. Infrastructure is the slowest story in finance, right up until it is the only story. Nobody rings a bell when the pipes get replaced. One day the money simply moves differently and everyone pretends they saw it coming. You actually will have. Not because of luck, because you watched the licenses while the timeline argued about logos. On Friday, this series lands its verdict. USDT versus USDC, matched to your job, region by region. Tokenized money isn't a headline. It's plumbing being replaced. Subscribe to ChainSense. I'm Rachel. See you in the next one.